Good morning, sunshine. You sparkle from above. I twinkle below. I don't think that's... I already butchered the words. Like a boss. What's up, DC? Good morning. Hi, Nathan. Hello, Frederick. Howdy, howdy, everybody. Oh, we're already almost at the 30 mark. The 30 mark from the sun, if you will. Right? Can we say that? I feel like we can. Oh, good to be back. Man, did I have a day yesterday. I'll tell you about it as soon as the show formally starts. And some of you probably tuned in to Aggressive Progressives, which if you did, thank you so much. Your support means very much, means everything. Because that was a riot yesterday. Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it some. But let's see. Oh, man, we're past. We are past. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at RonFlacone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? Getting our news on today. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means you guys tweet me articles, and I respond to them, and that's how we build the show. I don't see anything for the first time. I don't know anything that's going on today. I have not looked at the news yet today. All I did was wake up, sent out a couple tweets, and then danced around to some third wave ska to get stoked for this show. That's seriously what I did. That's all I did so far today. Yesterday we did not have a show. Why did we not have a show yesterday? We didn't have a show yesterday because I was co-hosting... I was hosting because I did it by myself. I hosted Aggressive Progressive. Jimmy is still recovering. He's still resting. We've been active with the Jimmy Dore show, but he's just kind of taking it slow, not trying to do too much all at once. So I hosted yesterday, and they couldn't get anybody to co-host with me. So I did the show by myself, you guys. I did 90 minutes. It felt a little bit like Get Your News On with Ron with a ultra production team. There was a bunch of production team people there, but it was still Get Your News On with Ron, except people didn't tweet me the articles. I actually had the stuff that I was supposed to talk about. But it was a fun time. And I hope, for those of you that got to check it out, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, Susan. Susan says you were fantastic. Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. It was pretty intimidating, just doing it all by myself. But I did it. And why couldn't you get anyone else on with you? Pam wants to know. Nobody was available. I mean, it's one of those shows where they kind of... they didn't want to introduce anybody totally new because this is a different type. It's already different because Jimmy's not there. You know what I mean? So they didn't want to introduce totally new people that weren't familiar with the show or the concept of the show or had never done the show before. So they kind of stayed with the regular roster, so to speak, and nobody was available. Nobody. Or maybe I have really bad BO. I thought about that. I was like, maybe I have really bad BO and no one's ever told me before. I feel like somebody would have had an intervention by now. Don't you think? Don't you think? I mean, the only thing I heard about so far today in my life is the Tommy Loren thing, which I think that person just wanted to see if she would melt or not. That's that's all I think that's all they wanted to know. So My question today, I haven't really thought of it yet. I thought of something, and it was a very light thing, and but now I forgot what it was. So yeah, I kind of don't have a question yet. But what I really wanted to know was I wanted to know what you guys do to get pumped up for something. And I know that's a light one, but, you know, what are you going to do? Sometimes we got light ones. So what do you guys do to get pumped for something? Here's what I do. I like to, because yesterday I had to wake up at 5:30 in the morning because I had to go to the studios to do Peter Lavelle's show on RT, Crosstalk. So I went and I did Crosstalk, and that was at 7 a.m. That's when we record it, 7 a.m. my time, Los Angeles time. So I did that at 7 a.m. Then I had to go to TYT to do Aggressive Progressives. So by 2 p.m. I had already done over 2 hours of content, and then after that, went and did some stuff with the Jimmy Dore show. So, man, it was a crazy, intense content day for me. That's why we didn't have a Get Your News On with Ron. But, yeah, what do you guys do to just stay stoked? Pam says cocaine, but they don't recommend it. Mr. Brokenaz says Russian TV. You know what I like to do? This is a fun... Mike, you say music. Music is a big one for me. Smoke a doob. That's what I do to relax. Surf if there is swell when I'm living in Wilmington. Wilmington's a cool town, I hear. I've never been to Wilmington, though. I've been, like, near it a bunch of times, and I've never been there, and I hear it's a really cool part of North Carolina. The Urge, Metallica, so a lot of you guys are also music folks. Nathan, music. Music's me, too. And the music that I really like to get pumped with, though, is, and maybe at this point it's a guilty pleasure, but my music that I most like to get pumped up with is third wave ska. Even this morning, I was getting pumped to Real Big Fish, and, well, these guys aren't third wave ska, but Social Distortion. I was listening to some Social D, and I was listening to, who else was I Alkaline Trio, but I mean, I listen to a lot of Alkaline Trio, but one of the things I do a lot to get pumped is I'll listen to, like, third wave ska music, like Catch-22 or Real Big Fish. And some of you guys, there might be nobody watching right now that even remembers that stuff or cares about that stuff. But it's something that I was really into as a teenager. It was kind of a guilty pleasure. And, I mean, it wasn't, at the time it wasn't guilty pleasure. At the time it was cool, and it was what I was all about. But now it kind of, you know, a lot of it didn't really stand the test of time, so to speak. Bucko 9, Dan. Wow, that is a name from the past. Streetlight Manifesto. I like Streetlight Manifesto a lot because that is, I believe the guy's first name is Caleb, but the guy from Catch-22, the original Catch-22 singer and songwriter, which they were never quite able to recreate an album as good as that first one. And I think it's because that guy was writing the songs. That guy is now the lead singer of Streetlight Manifesto. So it's a band called Catch-22 in the late 90s, early aughts. They were great. Their first album was fantastic. And in my humble opinion, they never quite made an album as good as that first one. And it's because their lead singer and songwriter went away to college and left the band. Well, that guy, to this day, is still doing music, and he's in Streetlight Manifesto. Dan Adriano, you know, man, a good Dan Adriano song is like, that is like, it's like sitting at a good dive bar, you know, just a good Dan Adriano song, like Got So Far to Go. That's one of my favorite Dan songs. Emma is one of my favorite Dan songs, and then he writes these like heart-wrenching, beautiful romance songs. Like, you know, it's dark here, you know that I'm scared too. For some reason, right now, I forget the title of that off the top of my head, but that song, people use that as their wedding song a lot. Balthazar, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. Imagine an HRC presidency and climax no more than 10 times. That's what Peter Dow would say. That's how he gets pumped up. That's funny. Eye of the Tiger, Dwayne. You can never go wrong. All right, so we got a lot of music. And Sean, of course, I've been to Warped Tour before. I've been to Warped Tour. I used to go to Warped Tour back when they still had the band barbecues, when the band still hung out there. That's dating myself a little bit, but I used to go. Although I've been 27 since the year 1933, so I have plenty of time to do all this stuff. But yeah, well, cool, guys. Thanks for the music, and glad to know some people have the same guilty pleasures and memories as I do. That's really good. Lady, congratulations. I'm glad you're doing good. Congratulations on your last radiation treatment. I'm thrilled to hear that, and I wish you a full and speedy recovery. And lady, it's interesting that happened for you today, because not to get too personal here, but well, I guess it's not. I mean, it's not a big deal. I don't mind sharing it, but I got a text from my dad this morning. My dad had a bout with prostate cancer 7 years ago, and he got a good report this year. When you have prostate cancer, or at least the way he had it, you go through the treatment, and it is a very, very treatable thing. Fortunately, like, that is a very treatable form of cancer, and they caught it early, which was also very fortunate. But after that, you have to go back every year to make sure you're clean, like you're cancer free. And he got a good report this year, so everybody was really happy to hear that. It's one of those things you kind of, it always has a little bit of anxiety with it. Especially my dad's a bit of a hypochondriac too, so that that probably might add to that anxiety for him. So yeah, but he got a clean bill of health. So congratulations, lady. I'm so thrilled to hear that. I wish you a full and speedy recovery. And yeah, a little bit of karma there as far as some good health news, because I also got some from my dad today, so that's cool. It's awesome when people I know are getting clean bills of health. That is fantastic. So congratulations, everybody. Thank you for your thoughts on getting pumped. I know it was a light question today, but sometimes we need a light one. Sometimes we really need a light one. We need a light question sometimes. All right, so let's go to the articles. All right, this is an interesting one. This is from Kyle. This is from Fox News. So let me give this a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. Hotel pulls out after group seeks to break world record for largest orgy. That right there is kind of interesting that they use the words, or they use the title for this article, Hotel Pulls Out. And you know what's funny? This article came from Fox News, so I bet you it was not intentional and nobody realized it. It was nobody at Fox caught that. I guarantee you that was just on accident. Hotel pulls out after group seeks to break world record for largest orgy. Not hotel cancels. Not hotel decides against hosting. Hotel pulls out. And this is Fox News. So even if it came from CNN or MSNBC, I would think they might have an intern with a sense of humor. But Fox News, come on. Nobody. I'm not saying those two outlets are better or worse. I think they're all equally terrible at this point. But I just mean from a standpoint of, at least being, having a sense of humor. They still think Dennis Miller's a comedian at Fox News. That says it all. The guy that, give me a few days and I'm going to write something. All right, so let's look at this article. Hotel pulls out, boom, roasted, after group seeks to break world record for largest orgy. The group, hoping to crush the Guinness record for the world's largest orgy, scrambled to find a new place to hold the event after the Las Vegas hotel. Of course they're having it in Vegas. Did they even need to put Las Vegas hotel there? They could have just said hotel, and they'll be like, yeah, we're in Vegas, pulled out. All right, so the event called Sin City 8, which is probably also a video game or a movie that they probably shouldn't have bothered making, was slated to occur on June 2nd at the Embassy Suites in Vegas, but it appears the hotel wasn't aware of what it was getting itself into. We have reached an agreement with the group. Guests of the group are welcome to stay at our hotel, but no events of any kind associated with Sin City 8 will take place at the Embassy Suites. How would they know? Well, yeah, you're right. No events will take place. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. When we became fully aware of the nature of the functions intended to be held at the hotel, we advised the group that the events were not consistent with the standards and environment we support, and consequently will not be permitted to take place at our property. Also, we do not have enough laundry detergent. We will go bankrupt. That's not in the article. I added that. But that's really what they were worried about. They were just like, oh, geez. All right, let's calculate how much money we're getting from these people. Now let's calculate the extra cleaning staff we would have to hire. If A plus B is greater than C, we got to do a recall. Tell these guys they got to go somewhere else for their orgy. All right, so according to the Sin City 8's website, the hotel was sold out due to the event, but tickets were still available to all events, which included pool parties and workshops. That's... Orgy workshops. How do you... What is that workshop? How to maximize your time. That'd be interesting. How to have intercourse with as many people as possible before climax. Breathing techniques help. Well, hey, I say live and let live. If people want to participate in that, that is their business. That is their choice. So I hope this group finds another place to hold their record-breaking orgy. I have participated in a world-breaking event before. I just realized as I started saying that, some of you guys probably thought I was going to say I have participated in one of those past world record-breaking orgies. I've been 27 since 1933, all right? When you've been around as long as I have, you want to add as much as you can to the memory book. And 1 year, I was like, screw it. It was actually, the one I participated in was actually Sin City .25, because it was pre-Sin City 1. And this was back when we could not tell any of the hotels what we were doing. We would just do it in a forest. We were pretty OG, because this was way before the internet. This was before cell phones. This was before we had regular phones, but that's all we had. Radio was still kind of not really that big of a thing, and we had Sin City .25 in the field which is now known as Bohemian Grove. But that was where we did it, and guys, it was just me and one other person. It was a much more repressive time. An oppressive time sexually. And so I was just like, look, I'm going to be 27, like, forever. So I should probably do this. And, like, one other person showed up. And we were like, well, I guess we got to make the best of this. So, no, I was in a world record event before. Over in Nashville, Tennessee, which I used to live there, every year... They do, during this comedy festival called the Wild West Comedy Festival, which is a festival that takes place every year in Nashville since, I believe, 2015 was the first year. It might have been 2014. 2014 or 2015. But they do, while that festival is going on, at this one venue in town, they hold the world's longest record-breaking comedy show. And I participated in the first one. I've not been able to participate in one since, but I was living in Nashville during the first one. So I just showed up, because what they did was they did a comedy show for 7 consecutive days, and people from the Guinness Book of World Records were there, and the rules were you had to have somebody on stage, and here's what's interesting. They couldn't play a song. So even though their musical comedy is a thing, and there were there were guitar acts that performed, they couldn't play guitar. Like, if you played a song, that disqualified it because it wasn't a comedy show anymore. It was like something else. And there could only be, I think there was like, there could only be one person on stage. And there was some other rule that like there always had to be at least like well, there could be more than one person on stage because like the host would go back up, shake the person's hand or whatever. But like you couldn't have a sketch or something like that. I think that was a rule. And then also you couldn't, there always had to be at least one person on stage. Meaning like if you were on stage and you just like step foot off stage for whatever reason, the show was over. The show was over. So yeah, I mean, you could say or do whatever you wanted. You could, you could riff. You could do crowd work. You didn't have to do like joke after joke after joke. Because sometimes there would be people on stage and it would be like 3 a.m. Oh, the other rule was they always had to have at least 10 people there total. So they would like recruit people. People would go in shifts. There were sleeping bags because like there was a little loft at this venue that we did it at least the venue that they did it at the year that I participated. There were lofts where people would sleep in sleeping bags so that the show was technically still going on. And there were people from the Guinness Book of World Records counting to make sure we hit the minimum. And I'm pretty sure they've broken the record every year. Every year they've just broken their own record. It's become a tradition now. It's pretty intense. So anyway, enough about that. Let's move on to another story. That was an interesting one to start the day. This is from DC 420. Or wait, no, I'm getting out of order here. First we're going to Sean. Q pissed off Democratic loyalist is the disclaimer here from Sean in sharing this article. So let me go ahead and give it a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. Okay, Bernie Sanders is going to run as a Democrat but not accept nomination. Okay, the Vermont senator announces his complicated re-election plans for another term. Okay, Bernie Sanders is running for the Democratic nomination in Vermont, but he won't accept if he wins. The famously independent senator who briefly joined the Democratic Party to run in the 2016 New Hampshire presidential primary, only to unenroll later, officially announced Monday he would seek a third term in the Senate this fall. He also said that he'll put the same maneuver that he did in his 2006 and 2012 Senate races, running as a Democrat, declining the nomination when he wins, and then running as an independent. The move makes it virtually impossible for another Democrat to seek the party's nod, and it allows Sanders to loom large in the party primary in August, but still preserve his independence. Good, 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 and good. And, even if you're not a fan of Bernie Sanders, and I know some of you guys aren't, I've disagreed with him before. We all have. But here's the thing. Here's the greater theme here. There are so many rules stacked against progressives, and there are so many ways that the Democratic establishment favors the establishment and the powerful and the corporate Democrats that are they're Republicans. They're basically Republicans. I mean, they are Republicans. They're conservatives in denial. They're cappuccino conservatives, as Marcus likes to call them, and I like to call them. So here we have somebody who's powerful enough to play the game to actually favor the progressives. So he's doing it, and he's been doing it, and he's doing it unapologetically. That is a good thing. That is freaking cool. And, again, let's see here. Is there anything else to this? The Vermont Democratic Party passed a resolution over the weekend supporting Sanders' move. Yeah, because they all like him. Proclaiming that he could still be considered a member of the party for all purposes and entitled to all the rights and privileges. Well, guess what? He doesn't need them. Bernie Sanders is the only politician in the country that a party doesn't need, or excuse me, he doesn't need a party needs him. He is the only politician in the country that is applicable to. He really is. And I don't understand why he didn't go to draft Bernie. I wish he would have. I was there. Obviously, I wanted him to. I was there. I think it's because he plans to run in 2020. Otherwise, I have no idea why he wouldn't have just went with draft Bernie and started a new party. I don't know why, unless he's planning on running in 2020. Or, and I had this theory recently. I think that, here's the thing. With us, with most of the people watching this stream, and with myself, a lot of us, we're aware of what's really going on with this two-party system. How the game is rigged, how the cards are stacked against any type of progressive change, and how it's not a coincidence that the party with superdelegates are the Democrats and not the Republicans. That the party with a DCCC type setup are the Democrats. It's because the Republicans are already openly a party for the 1%. The Democrats, they got to be more subtle about it. And that's why we have a one-party system. And that's why I feel like we need a new party. Because we need a second party option. So, but even though I feel that way, and chances are everybody watching this stream feels that way, there's still a lot of people that aren't aware of that. There's still a lot of people in the world, or in the country, well, I guess in the world too, but in the country that don't understand why you wouldn't just go for the lesser of two evils, that don't understand why incrementalism isn't good enough. And they need to be taught, they need to see it's not about incrementalism, it's about the game's rigged against you. It's about the will of the people doesn't matter. And if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, nothing will ever change. That's what it's about. To people watching this stream, to me, that message may seem obvious. But to a lot of people, it's still not. So, for any type of progressive movement to succeed, I think there needs to be somebody on the inside that is putting policy forward, and when it doesn't get the support it's supposed to get, it's unmasking the establishment. Right now, that guy is Bernie Sanders. That's who's doing that right now. It's Bernie Sanders. And maybe, and again, I'm just speculating here, I don't know, but maybe he realizes that's the role he's got to play. Because, yeah, to us, it's obvious. To us, we don't feel like we need that anymore. But our group's still small. And I need to remind myself of that sometimes. I'm not, like, trying to lecture. I mean, I'm talking to myself in many ways. Because I need to be reminded of that sometimes. Because sometimes I'm guilty of hanging out in my little Southern California bubble. Or when I go around the country, it's for a Jimmy Dore show or a progressive comedy tour where I see a lot of like-minded people. So sometimes I forget that there's still a lot of other ideas floating around in this country. And we still need a lot of people to come around to our point of view if we really want to change anything. So yeah, and I don't know if that's something that Bernie's totally... I mean, I know Bernie is very smart. He's been doing the work for 40 years. He knows politics better than most people. So maybe he realized that's the role he's got to play. And, if he ever said that, if he ever was like, look, this is the role I got to play. You guys got to take what I'm exposing and run with it. That's your job. That's what you have to do. This is what I have to do, and that's what you have to do. I think that makes sense. At least to me it does. But, and in the meantime, I'm glad when he can actually make the rigged system work in Progressive's favor instead of the opposite, because that's what it usually does. All right, thanks for sharing that, Sean. GOT Progressive tweeted you an article, Supreme Court upheld, states can gamble with our money on sporting games. Once I read it, I'm torn because of the precedent it sets. Okay, I'll have to get to that article. The only successful neoliberal movement is a bow one on their base. I guess that's why they desperately need a shitty candidate, Balthazar says. Thank you, Balthazar. All right. All right. Well, let me try to find that article for you. But I'm going to try to go in order here. Okay, DC, you are next. Let me go ahead and give this a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. Get your news on with Ron. All right, this looks like a feel-good story here. Hope grows for baby Carter as symptoms improved with cannabis cream. So we first met Carter and his parents over a year ago. Baby Carter suffers from lamellar ichthyosis, a rare skin disorder with no care. That causes dark scales because of dead skin cells that don't flake off. Despite corrective surgery, Carter's skin is so tight that he can't shut his eyes and spends most of his time indoors. Okay, I do remember hearing about this a while ago. His parents used to apply oatmeal baths and coconut oil several times a day just to provide a little bit of relief to their son, but now they're hopeful that a cream made from cannabis oil will continue to show major improvements to his skin. So here's a picture of him in this article. And it's hard to look at. This baby Carter, basically, he looks like a burn victim. I mean, he looks like he was burnt, you know. I'm not trying to make light of it. That's what this baby looks like. This baby looks like the baby was burned, was in a fire or something. But it's just very, very dry skin because it doesn't, they don't flake off correctly. That's, wow. I wonder exactly how, I wonder how many cases of this there have been. They say it's very rare. So Carter's mom still gets emotional talking about when she first realized the cannabis cream was working. I cried a lot. I still cry. I'll be in the bathtub just scrubbing his back, and the scales fall right off, and I'll just cry. Most people think of comfort food when they think of their grandmother's kitchen. This is the article still. But Carter's grandma cooks up something to comfort her grandson's skin. She makes the cream in her kitchen using cannabis oil and other essential oils, giving him a gift no doctor has been able to provide yet. That's amazing. So cannabis is also known to reduce inflammation in some cases, and in this case, it's helping his skin disorder. That is incredible. And I hope that Carter and his family are living in a place. I think this might be the same case where they moved to a state that had medical marijuana. Like they had to leave a state that didn't have it. I'm not sure if this is the same story as that. That's awesome. That is really, really cool. DC, thank you for sharing a feel-good story. We like feel-good stories here, and we've actually, we've had a light story and kind of a feel-good one. Amber, you are next. Which Amber, by the way, I'm not sure what part of South Carolina you are in, but on June 22nd, Graham Elwood and I are going to be in Asheville, North Carolina, and it would be really cool if you could make that show. Just throwing it out there. We're going to be in Asheville on June 22nd at the block off Biltmore. I'll be doing housekeeping at the end of the show, so I'm not going to get too into that now. But since we're at your article, thought I'd mention I know you're in South Carolina. I don't know how close you are to Asheville, North Carolina. But if you're in that region, I hope you'll consider coming out for the show. All right, now let's get to your article. Let me give this a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. And you know what? The Bernie story was a feel-good story, too. And excuse me, I got to take a sip of coffee. Lay your money down. That's the headline. This is from Wow TV, WHIO TV, and I like to say Wow TV. Lay your money down. The court says the states can okay sports betting. The Supreme Court cleared the way Monday for states coast to coast to legalize betting on sports, breaking a long-time ban and creating a potential financial boom for states in the gambling industry. The first bets could be placed within weeks. Man, the Supreme Court, they are really... I'm glad they're focused on important issues. Again, I'm glad, and this actually is a big issue economically. But the other thing the Supreme Court did this week, by the way, is they screwed over workers big time. They okayed legislation that would allow employers to prohibit employees from bringing about class action lawsuits when they're denied overtime. So why would you ever need a class action lawsuit if you were denied overtime? Because a lot of people were denied it systematically. And an employer doesn't want you to be able to do this. So, call me crazy, but if an employer will want to stop you from doing that, it seems like maybe they're planning on screwing their employees over when it comes to overtime. Why else would you... Hey, sign this thing that says you can't participate in a class action lawsuit for being denied overtime. Are you guys planning on doing that? Oh, of course not. But sign this anyway. You can't do anything if we do. Wow. Supreme Court said that's okay. And they also think sports betting's okay. Sports leagues have expressed concerns about any expansion of sports gambling. However, the ruling also could be seen as merely bringing an activity out of the shadows that many people already see as a mainstream hobby. Stock prices for casino operators and equipment makers surged after the ruling was announced. Gambling on sports could quickly become widely available after one research firm estimated that 52 states would likely offer sports betting within 5 years. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't have strong opinions on this one. People that are going to bet on sports are going to do it anyway, whether they do it, via a local bookie in their town or at a casino. I mean, and I know that there's certainly gambling addicts out there, and that's a very significant thing. But again, if people are already going to the casino and they're already gambling addicts, this isn't going to make that any better or worse. At least I don't think. And most gambling addicts, they're not sports betting. They're usually it's like the machines or something like that typically. But so I don't really have a strong. I mean, I wish the Supreme Court was doing something that actually helps people. It seems like, looking at this story and the other thing I brought up with the workers, they're only interested in helping big business and corporations. That's literally it. That's literally it. But let me go to the chat here. Maybe you guys know something that... Like you said, not world-shattering legislation. All right, fair enough. Lady says I should try to get Portia Bolger on my show. I will look into that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Cool. All right. Let's see what... Let's see what's going on here. We still got a lot to get through. Here's an article from Portia Bolger. This is from a vet. Let me give it a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. So a judge rules that Trump can't block users on Twitter. Okay. A federal district court judge on Wednesday ruled that President Trump can't block people from viewing his Twitter feed over their political views. Judge Naomi Reese Buchwald of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York said President Trump's Twitter account is a public forum and blocking people who reply to his tweets with differing opinion constitutes viewpoint discrimination, which violates the First Amendment. The court's ruling is a major win for the Knight Foundation, which brought the lawsuit on behalf of 7 people who were blocked from the real Donald Trump account because of opinions they expressed in replied tweets. Buchwald, who was appointed by President Clinton, rejected Trump's argument that the First Amendment does not apply in this case and that the president's personal First Amendment interests supersede those of plaintiffs. No First Amendment harm arises when a government's challenged conduct is simply to ignore the speaker. As the Supreme Court has affirmed that it is free to do, stated otherwise, a person's right to speak is not infringed when government simply ignores that person. So, here's what I'll say about this. I'm for it, but I think it should apply to all future presidents too. In fact, I'll go a step further. I think it should apply to anybody that's a politician. I think if you're a politician and you're doing something that affects policy in people's lives, that should be something that goes along with that, where you have to be exempt from certain things, such as the ability to block people on Twitter. And while you're in office, you cannot block anyone from Twitter if you are going to use it as a communication tool. Otherwise, your alternative is don't have a Twitter account or have a separate personal account. That's fine if you have a separate personal account. But if you're the president and you have a presidential Twitter account, yeah, you shouldn't be able to block people. I'm actually for that. I know there's some slippery slopes that we can get into floating around there, but I'm for it. If you're a public official, you should be totally transparent via social media while in office. Abso-freaking-lutely. Afterwards, if you want to make a personal account and have more privacy and block people if you feel like you need to, have at it. That's fine. But while you're in office, yeah, I think you shouldn't be able to block people on Twitter. I think that should be outlawed. I really do. Because you create policy or are involved with policy that affect people's lives. And that needs to be transparent. And that means you're going to get some feedback you don't like. But so be it. So, yeah, I'm for it, but I think it needs to. It shouldn't be unique to Trump. It should apply to all elected officials. What do you guys think? Technically, it is his personal account. The POTUS is the official account. Don't care. I don't care. He's the president. You know what I'm saying? If somebody's a city council member or something like that, and they have an official account for their city council business, and then they have a personal account that's separate, that's fine. And on their personal account, they can do whatever the hell they want, but on their official account for duties, they can't. But yeah, Donald Trump uses his personal account and the POTUS account. He uses his personal account more, and he uses it for presidential business. He uses it to tweet about things that affect all of our lives. So yeah, he doesn't get to block people. I don't care. And yeah, I think it's a case-by-case situation, I would say. And in his case, yeah, well, he's in office. He doesn't get to block people on Twitter. I don't personally go on his Twitter often, but I see his tweets all the time because people retweet them, people troll him, and he uses that real Donald Trump for presidential duties or whatever. So yeah, he shouldn't get to block people. I agree with that. But I think that that should apply for all public officials. All public officials. Not just Trump, all public officials. And again, it's a case-by-case basis. If you're going to use that, quote, personal account for political business, for policy information, then guess what? You don't get to block people anymore. It's by your own doing. So, yeah, that's what I think. So, let's see what else. Oh, this is interesting. This is from Edwin. And by interesting, I mean it sounds pretty disgusting, but let's see what's going on here. By the way, I know this is a small side note, but I stopped liking articles that you guys send. And the reason being, I know some of you guys send articles for different reasons, and some of the stuff you send is like really not okay news. And I used to just really mechanically just like it, but of course I'm liking it because you're participating in the show. I'm not necessarily liking or embracing the article, but for some people that don't know what Get Your News On With Ron is, they might get confused. And that's happened before. People have tweeted me like, why are you liking it? And then I explain it, and it's usually not a big deal. But, so instead of doing that, I just give it a Get Your News On With Ron retweet. And with the hashtag Get Your News On With Ron, I think it's pretty explanatory what it is. So, anyway. The NFL announces a new national anthem policy that fines teams if players kneel during the anthem. The league says protests created a false perception among many that thousands of NFL players were unpatriotic. The NFL announced Wednesday that all players who are on the field when the national anthem is heard before a game must stand, or they can choose to remain in the locker room without penalty. The league's teams have all agreed to the new policy, and they will be subject to a fine if a player disobeys. How about you just not bring them out for the anthem the way you used to do prior to 2000 and I believe 2009? They used to not be out there. Then what happened was the military wanted more people. So they got in cahoots with the NFL and they said, hey, we already have like a pretty, pro-war bent here, but let's really bring it to the max. And let's really have mega support the troops. Here's a vet. And let's have the players there for the national anthem. That's something recent. They used to not go out for the national anthem. It just used to be something that didn't happen because it was done beforehand to pay respects, and then the event began, and the players took the field. That was the sequence of order of events, and it made sense that way. First of all, I personally, I don't know why any kind of national anthem at a sporting event is necessary at all. In my opinion, it shouldn't be a thing. I don't know why you can't just have a sporting event. You don't do the national anthem before a concert or before a comedy show. Why does it need to be before a sporting event? Furthermore, why should we really be proud of a national anthem where we had to omit some of the verses because of how brutal they were? But anyway, that could be a whole other long conversation. Why don't they just not? I mean, first of all, this is a blatant violation of the First Amendment rights of all the NFL players. They've already demonized Colin Kaepernick enough by exiling him from the league. They exiled the guy, which is disgusting. I don't like the NFL the way. I really enjoy the game of football. I think it's a very fun game. It's very fun to watch. I never really played it other than, pickup games. But it's a game that I really have a lot of love for. And the NFL grosses me out on so many levels. The excessive patriotism and nationalism and pro-war bent is a big part of it, yeah. The other big part of it is they're gutting the game. They are literally making it a lawyer's game. It's not even fun to watch anymore. Have you ever seen... If you are at a bar and you're watching a football game... And, okay, if you're watching the fans, right? Like, a football game's on the TV. You're watching the fans. When their team scores, people go like this. They go... You see what I did? Like, they celebrate, and then they pull it back. They're like... You know why they do that? Because we don't even know what a catch is anymore in the NFL. So people don't know whether they should celebrate or not. They wait for the reviews and the discussions. But I mean, it's just not fun anymore. It is truly a lawyer's game. They have flat out taken touchdowns away from teams. And they totally... And I'm sorry, they screwed Jacksonville over big time this year. And everybody saw it coming. When the NFL numbers, comparatively speaking... Now, the NFL still makes money hand over fist. But comparatively speaking, last year was a little lower than usual. It was a little lower than usual. So when people knew that, I thought right away, I was like, there's no way the Patriots aren't going to the Super Bowl. Why did I feel that way? Because when you have a season when ratings are a little lower, there's no way they weren't going to have a franchise team, one of the big behemoth teams in the Super Bowl. There was just no freaking way. So when the Steelers went out, I said the Patriots are going to the Super Bowl. There's no way. And hey, I'm from Pittsburgh, so the Steelers are my team. I mean, that's the team I grew up with. But I'm just being honest and objective here. If the Steelers would have played the Patriots, I hope it would have been just a fair game. Although the Steelers got screwed over in the regular season, but I'm hoping it just would have been a fair game because either one of those two teams they would have been fine with. You either have one franchise team or another, Patriots or Steelers. But there's no way they were going to let Jacksonville in. It just wasn't going to happen. They were not going to let Jacksonville in. I mean, I think at this point the NFL is not really much different from professional wrestling. I really don't. What makes the patriotism even worse, Balthazar says, thank you for the Super Chat contribution, by the way, Balthazar. What makes the patriotism even worse is that it's paid patriotism. The military literally has to pay the NFL in order to get vets on the field. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's how they kind of got in cahoots. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would go as far as to say it's completely 100% rigged, but there's thumbs on the scale big time. And, I mean, it's getting to the point where I wouldn't be shocked if we found out it was more, there was more behind the scenes stuff than we realized. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I'm not saying it is or isn't, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. And yeah, I mean, just the way the refs hijack games, I don't even enjoy the NFL more. I mean, it's just something that I used to enjoy that I just don't anymore. It just ruined, And it's a conversation nobody really wants to have either. I'm like, yeah, I just don't even enjoy the NFL anymore, and people just, brush it off, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Thanks for touring the Southeast, Nunnies. Am I reading that right? Nunnols. Sorry. Nunnols. Thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Thanks for touring the Southeast. Well, I hope I see you there. I hope if you're there, I see you there. We're going to be in a bunch of places, and I'll do housekeeping right after this because we're out of time. Thanks for touring the Southeast. Southern progressives are usually ignored by their distant allies, but they are in legion. Look at the Moore Jones election. I don't know if that's the best example, but I understand what you're saying. I'm not a big fan of Doug Jones, but again, guys, we are totally out of time. We are completely out of time. Guys, I appreciate y'all for being here. I really do. And I'll do a little housekeeping before we go. Me and Graham Elwood are on tour. We're hitting the Southeast next month. June 20th, we're in Nashville. June 21st, Huntsville. June 22nd, Asheville, North Carolina. June 23rd, Louisville, Kentucky. And June 24th, we'll be in Atlanta, Georgia. Chat with Dave Zurin, Edge of Sports. Great talk on Kaepernick and the NFL. Marcus says, thank you. I will do that because I would actually very much like to do that. And Balthazar, you're saying I missed some of your super chats. Let me try to get to those. Let me see if I can switch it up here and go to the other thing where I can see all the super chats so I can make sure I didn't miss them. Here we go. All right, I read your NFL one. The only successful neoliberal movement. He probably... Okay, so here, Balthazar. Sorry I didn't... sorry I missed a couple of those. Let me read your super chats here. How many neoliberals does it take to change the light bulb? None. Neoliberals only resist change. Haha. When you leave with your lawsuits. Love it, Balthazar. Thank you for that. And Balthazar, again, thank you for your super chat contribution. He probably only didn't go with Draft Bernie because of debate access. 2 parties would have raised a lot to keep him out of the debates, up to 150%. That's another good, that's another good call. Yeah, I think it's because he wants to run in 2020. I think. I mean, that's what I'm guessing. I'm not sure. But I have a feeling that's why. So, guys, we're totally out of time. Again, I'll finish the plug. For info on all the tour dates, go to ronplacone.com. There's info and tickets there for all my friends in the Southeast. For everybody in Los Angeles, May 31st. May 31st is our next politics night at the Dojo. We have a fantastic lineup. Julianne Simmons is going to be on that show. She's writing for Jimmy Kimmel. And the headliner is a comedian named Felicia Michaels who just released her one-woman show. And she's been on Comedy Central. She's done a lot of amazing things. Plus, I'll be there. I'll be doing a set. Raja Michaels, Lenny Shelton, Derek Lamos, some of my favorite political comics in town. So for all LA people, if you tweet at me and say hashtag May 31st, I'm putting you on the guest list for that show. So tweet at me, say hashtag May 31st if you want to get on the guest list for the May 31st Politics Night at the Dojo. It's at the Sycamore Tavern on Sunset Avenue. And there's a parking lot. Do it. Guys, I love you all very much. And you know the deal. If you are so able, patreon.com/ronplacone. Help support this show. Help me get better equipment. Help me expand. And it's at a pay-what-you-can level. And you get a bunch of free content, a bunch of free perks, including free show tickets when I'm coming to your town. Guys, I love you all very much. I will be back tomorrow. And our guest tomorrow is Gail McLaughlin. Gail McLaughlin, running for lieutenant governor. Actually, let me make sure. Yeah, lieutenant governor. Sorry, I just had I had that brief moment where I doubted myself, and I was like, wait a second, what if she was running for something else? And I was like, no, dude, lieutenant governor, chill. She's running for lieutenant governor of California. She has a history of battling with big oil and winning. She beat Chevron in Richmond, California. We're gonna talk to her about it. So Gail McLaughlin's gonna be on tomorrow. And also a really quick announcement concerning Pasta. Pasta will likely not be around for a little bit. He had a family matter, so I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't know if he would want me to or not. But we're wishing Pasta the very, very best and look forward to his return. So guys, you know the drill. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? Let's hope they don't start World War III. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? Getting our news on today. Yeah, 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 yeah. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. We will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll have Gail McLaughlin with us. See you then.